today we are going to be talking about query params. What the hell are they? How the hell are we going to use them? And we could either, I kind of wanted to give you all the option. Either way, we're going to do some theoretical stuff. Would y'all rather stick to the theory or like build something with them?
I say build.
Yeah. Can we do like a part 1 and a part 2 to this class?
Sure, if that's what y'all want to do. We can't do a whole lot of classes today, so we can't like just add a part 2 towards the end of the day because we're going to have to be going over code challenges later on. But for now, let's do both. We'll do a Bob the build it and burn, Bob the build and burn, and then we'll start with some theory. Okay, so some of y'all may have been paying attention to, I think Ariel had a question about query params in the channel, and honestly, the answer there was actually pretty good. Let's see. We'll deal with Postman in a bit. Y'all have done some Postman stuff, right? Yes. Thumbs up if y'all have done Postman stuff. Okay, cool. So Postman's a good way of showing it, but we're not going to do that yet. We're going to do that. We're going to get to Postman when we actually do a build and burn. For now, we're going to pull up this, and let's go ahead. And I use the Rick and Morty API for literally everything. So I'm going to go to that right now. This is the characters endpoint. In general, a lot of APIs will let you do this thing where at the end of the URL, you add a question mark. Then after the question mark, you can do like a series of, basically you can think of them as key value pairs. So for example, a key value pair that I could use here is page equals 2, right? Let's do page equals 1 at first. I do this, and what this is going to be is it's going to be the first page of this database. So the first page has, basically what it has is it has characters 1 through 20. I could also say, oh, get me to page equals 2, right? And this is, in its basic form, kind of like what a query param is. It's like after this question mark, you could actually have multiple of these. So a lot of times this is how searches will work. You'll be like, oh, okay, page equals 2. And then I don't know if this will actually work for this API, if it's built to. We'll find out. But you might be able to go like, and let's see, name equals Aqua Morty. Let's see if that works. Nope. So it doesn't let you do the and, but in general, you can have like multiple query params be sent. So for right now, we'll just do name equals Aqua Morty, and that actually works. But this API isn't built to work with multiple query params. It really only lets you do one at a time. Nothing wrong with that. Other like search engines, you can just dump a bunch of them in and they'll do something for you. But basically what a query param is it's this stuff after the question mark. And effectively, all that it is a way to store data through the URL that you're sending. So in this case, this is just like sending, oh, okay, I need to send the information with a name equals Aqua Morty. That's it. That's all there is to query params. But you got to kind of learn how to do a bunch of stuff with them. So that's really inherently all that it is. Someone explain to me what they think a query param is at this point. Let's see. I'm going to call on Benton. Ben. Let's see.
Oh, shit. I'm chatting away. I wasn't paying full attention. Query param is the stuff that comes after the question mark in the URL.
Love that. All right. I want someone else to expand on that. Let's go with Ariel.
So from what I'm understanding, so you said a way to store data through the URL, but tell me if I'm wrong in what I'm kind of seeing here is that, so you know how when we do so we create our GET request for a show and we say, okay, I want you to find it for me. Name is going to be based on whatever params or the person that we choose is we're going to find based on the params that are provided. And this is a way to provide that param so that we can then find the data that's being requested.
Yeah, so let me break down what you just said. And here's the difference between maybe a show endpoint and a query param endpoint, right? So with a show endpoint, it would be / and then just the number, right? So for example, if we wanted to grab Aqua Morty, his ID is 21. So I think if I type in 21 here, hey, now I get this show endpoint, right?
Yeah.
The query params are more flexible than that. Like in theory, which is not always a good, like flexible is not always a good thing, but it's just know like what that means, right? So in this case, I can send in page equals 2. I could send in name equals blah, 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 blah. And now I have like something that I could shoot over to my backend where instead of just defaulting to the show point, which is by ID, I could pass in a number of parameters and create custom endpoints, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Now, this is in terms of how it works with the backend, but the thing is that query params is not only a concept that applies to sending requests to a backend. It also applies to, creating characters through the backend, but also it applies to like front end show pages, which is kind of like the little build and burn that we're going to do today, is with a front end show page. Cool. The other thing I kind of wanted to show y'all on Postman real quick is like, let's say I want to send, I don't really have any to-dos that I've created. Let's just pretend like I do. Let's say I want to create, let's say I want to create a new to-do. Well, have y'all filled out this part yet? Y'all haven't really messed around with the create and Postman, have you? Thumbs down to up if you've messed around with the create and Postman. Okay. If
yes,
you have messed
around the request body.
What?
Yes, but doing it through the request body and rather than through the params tab.
Ah, and was that in a class or was that
Yeah, it was in a class. I'm pretty sure it was with Damon.
Okay. Well, the way that we're actually going to do this now is like, I think the easiest way to get started with, and it's going to basically be the same thing. It's just where you fill out the information. But if you go into Postman, there's basically a couple different spots you can create something, right? As far as like you want to post something to your backend, there's a couple spots where you could do it. You could either put it inside of the body that you send, which let's not talk necessarily about why right now, but there are reasons to put it in the body, or you can just send it as query params. When you send it as query params, it's actually literally changing the URL that you're sending it to. So for example, let's say I want to create a new character and their name is going to be, I don't know, Chuck. And this is not a characters endpoint here. Let's just change this to characters. That way it's like fair. So we have a character named Chuck, and then maybe we have, let's see, we have a like age of Chuck is 23. Great. So now what we have is this basically reformatted this query param string, and that's how that information will get sent over to our backend. Cool. All righty. Sweet. We're going to do a quick build and burn. Awesome. I want y'all to code along if you can. If you can't, that's okay. If you start falling behind, don't struggle on keeping up. Instead, just focus on what we're doing. I'm recording this lesson. I'm going to go, this is an important one, so I'm going to go out of my way to get this lesson online immediately after. I know I'm normally not super great about that. This one's going up immediately, so cool.
John,
Yes?
sorry, super quick. Is that kind of like the extract of what we're going to be doing? Like what you just did?
We are going to be, you're going to need to know how to do some of the stuff that we're doing on here for the code challenge is what I would say.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Awesome.
So we're going to start by just creating a new Rails app. So I'm going to go in my folder. We're just going to do Rails, new Rails new dash API. And we're going to call it character time. Cool. So while that's creating, get some stretching in.
Onto your screen a little bit.
What was that?
Can you zoom in on your terminal a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for letting me know. That better?
Yes.
Cool. Nice. And actually, I should have probably put that. what did I call it? Character time. I probably should have put that in another folder. So I'm going to make a character time folder. Character time folder right now, just to show you. And I can actually move. Move is MV is a Zish command that basically takes something and you're rewriting the file path to it. So for example, if I have character time here and I want to move it into the character time folder, I'll do MV character time into the character time folder and slash character time, maybe backend. Let's do that for now. So now if I CD into the character time backend, or into my character time folder, I mean, now what I have is inside of there is where I created my backend. And you can see it's a Git repository. I think that's why it shows up blue. Cool. Does everybody understand what I just did with the MV? I like to take those opportunities to introduce you all to some of these Zish commands so you can start getting comfortable with it. But cool. Awesome. And then we're also going to want to create a front end. So I'm just going to make character time front end. So now I have a back end and a front end. And something that I usually want to do if I have a back end and a front end is, do we see how there's no Git repository here? So, and the way that I could tell is because that like master doesn't show up right next to my cursor on Zish. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to CD into the character time backend. And now master shows up, which means that if I type in ls-a, do we see how there's a git ignore here? I'm sorry, a dot git. The dot git is telling it like, oh, okay, here is a Git repository. So that's where all the information for the Git repository is. So we're just going to remove that. It's a folder. So rm-rf.git, and now the master went away. And if we do want to have a Git repository, we should probably store both of these in there. What you don't want is a repository inside of a repository. That's why I had to go in and delete it. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in git init, and now we have a repository. Sweet. Cool. Everybody give me a thumbs down, a thumbs up. Show me where you're at. Cool, everyone's a thumbs up. Love it. Nice, good, great, fantastic, beautiful, awesome. So first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our backend. So I am actually gonna open up all this in Vim because I am faster at that now, which is great. We're gonna go into our backend, and yeah, we're gonna also CD into our backend. So backend, cool. And now I'm gonna, let's see. The truth is we don't actually need to open any files because in Rails, we can do a lot of it from our command line, right? So let's think about what we're gonna create right now. We are going to wanna create a resource for our characters. What properties might a character have? I don't know, let's give them a name and an age. You all agree with that? So we're gonna make name is a string. I don't have to write string because by default, it is a string if I don't provide any argument. And then we'll just do age is going to be integer. Bam. So this should be creating a character. Hopefully it works. Cool. So we look here, we see it created a migration, it created a model, it created a controller, and it added it to our resources. Excellent. So I'm going to go in there, and now what we want to do is let's create just an endpoint with a create method. So that way we can just mess around with params for a second. We'll do some of the standard stuff that you would do when you create a model, or when you have a controller. So we'll do some of the standard controller actions. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up our characters controller, and first let's make an index method. Index, and if you're not super comfortable with creating this method, I suggest you get comfortable quick because this is a pretty easy one. Oh, what was that? Oh, there was something about some Vim thing. Okay. And then we're going to say at characters equals character dot all, and then we are going to render to JSON characters. And we're going to give this a save. Whoops. And we just want to see if that worked. So I'm going to go ahead in here. I have to CD back into it. And let's go ahead and just, if I did this right, we should have an empty array right now. We're going to create them from Postman, so it won't matter too much. But I'm just going to type in Rails SP. I like to run my server on 9,000 because I'm cool like that. So instead of running mine on 3,000, I can just specify the port to be 9,000, which I think is pretty cool. And now if I go to Google and I just go to localhost 9,000, let's see, 9,000/characters, then I should have an empty array. Uh-oh, I never ran Rails DB migrate. That's a pretty clear error, isn't it? So we're going to go to iterm, and I am just going to stop this, and I'm going to run Rails DB migrate. Cool, it created it. Gonna run that port again. Go here, keep refreshing this until it decides to work. There we go, an empty array. Why do I have an empty array? Does anybody know?
Haven't seeded anything. There's no
Exactly.
data.
We haven't seeded anything. Sweet. Next thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a create method. Oops. Sorry about that. Next thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a create method here. And that goes in our controller. And all that we're gonna do is just get a bybug stuff stuck in there. So have y'all made create methods yet? Yeah, I don't think I've taught that. Cool, but I still want to get that stuck because it's definitely something worth noting. Okay, so we're gonna get a bybug in here. We're going to give this a save. And then we're gonna go over to Postman. And also because this is localhost 3,000, we need to change it to 9,000. And now let's look at what's happening. I'm sending a post request to this URL and there's no body. There's no, like, this is something like if you have conceptualized in your head that there's some other secret part that's being sent over, there's not. Basically, all that's being sent with this post request is just this URL, and that's how the information is being stored. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and send this over, and if we did it right, it should get stuck. Looks like it got stuck. Great. So let's go ahead and open up iterm, and if we open up our terminal, now we're in here. Let's take a look. What is the object that allows me to, it should be a Rails object, and it allows me to look at all the shit that got sent over via a fetch call.
Is it params?
Params. Let's take a look at params. Great job. So when I look at params, I can see that there's a few different key value pairs in here. There's name, there's age. Y'all notice how that got dumped into there? So this is kind of the way Rails works. Rails will take, just so you're aware, if you are trying to conceptualize this, Rails will take requests either in a query param format, but also from your body. It will take them from either place, right? And it will dump it into, I guess I have a message, chill at the mall with homies. Okay, cool. Anyways.
Was that on your to-do list?
Probably was. Yeah. So what it actually did, and by the way, you notice how that got dumped in there too? So it's going to take params either from your query params or from your body, and it's just gonna dump them into this params object. So either way you send it, it works. Don't worry about the body right now. That's, if you're stressing about that, don't worry about it. Right now, I think all you need to know how to do is the query params. And once you start learning about forms, forms are going to actually format that query param for you to send to the back end. But just so you know, that's all that's going on right now. So let's go ahead and just finish this out. So I want to test some code out here. So I like doing params. And then one thing I note about this params object is if you try to index it with the colon, I don't think it likes that. Maybe it does. I don't remember. Oh, I guess it does like that. Cool. Okay, so you can index the params object with the colon. I think you can also index it with quotes. Whoops. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you can do it either or in the params object. Sometimes if you're ever like freaking out because something is resulting in nil, sometimes this is something to check. Oh, okay, did I try indexing it with a string or indexing it with a symbol? And what you'll find is that sometimes that's your problem. So just one of those things to look out for. Rails is finicky about that. There's a deep theoretical reason that I'm not like fully competent at explaining, so I'm not going to. But just so you know, that's like something to throw on your checklist of things to look for. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make this pretty simple. We are going to say, to create one, we're going to do, we can do it like this: name equals params, name, age equals params, age. And now I should be able to do character dot create, and we're going to say name. It's going to be name. Age is going to be age. And yes, if you wanted to, you could also make these, whoops. You could also make these instance variables. So we'll do that. Great. So awesome. Now let's see if we can get this thing to work. So first thing I want to do is I probably want to exit this by bug. So I'm going to hit Control and D. Nice. And then I'm going to go back into Postman. So let me make sure I save this first. Cool. And now if I'm in Postman and I send this over again, I should get something back. So let's see what I get back. Where's my response?
Did you render a JSON response?
I did not, did I? That's the problem. Render JSON. Oh, we should do, whoops. New character equals that. And then we could do render JSON new character. Give that a save. Go to Postman. Let's make a different character. Chuck E. Cheese. This one will be kind of creepy, but Chuck E. Cheese is 45. I know. Blows the mind, right? Okay, cool. Send that back. Oh, now we get a body. Cool. With the help of my students, I can accomplish anything. All right, sweet. So we now have that done. So we've created a backend create endpoint, and we kind of have, I think, a better idea of what maybe these query params do. All right, so I'm going to open the floor for some questions now. This seems like a good pause point. Anybody have questions?
Yeah, I do. When you're going in your Rails thing and you're creating the creating function method, I haven't seen anybody really like rename those parameters like at name, at age in there. I usually just do like at character
Yeah,
equals.
it doesn't matter. I honestly just haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
it works either way. It's probably more efficient to just do params and name like right here instead.
Mhm.
I'm just not gonna do that right now. I mean, I can.
Okay. I was just wondering if there's a reason why, if we were going to use it later.
You ready? Let's do params name. Let's see. No, 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 yes. Oh, and then I need to get rid of this. Cool. And then we could just do params. Whoops. Age. Bam. And then let's go bam, bam, bam. Cool. Probably should, in general, it's always a good idea to check your code to make sure it worked. So we're just going to do another one. It's going to be Chuck B. Cheese. Chuck B. Cheesy. Hey, that was a terrible name. He's 19. Great. Cool. Let's see if this works now. Damn. Looks like it worked. Cool. Alrighty, so now we have a create method. One last method that we want to make is just a show endpoint. So we're going to do that. And that's kind of because it's pertinent to how we're actually going to use query params. Because part of the reason why you're going to be using query params, I would say, on your code challenge, which you are soon to find out, is that on your code challenge, you need to make a show page. How the hell do I make a show page? That's what we're kind of going to talk about today if we get time. So awesome. So we're going to say at character equals character dot find, and with dot find, if you don't provide a argument for dot find, it defaults to finding a character by ID. So we're going to pull out of that. We're going to pull params ID. And then here we're going to just render to JSON at character, except for, yeah, that should be, I'll do it like this. And then we are going to refactor this. So to say character. Nope, don't want to do that. No. Oh, did I fuck something up? Yeah, no, we're good. Yes. No. Yes. Cool. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. We'll find out. Characters. Character.create. Cool. Alrighty, so we're gonna go to Postman, and we're not actually gonna go to Postman. What we're gonna do now is we want to just test our show endpoint. I like doing that just in the browser. So I like to go to Google, go to localhost 9000/characters. Cool, we have some characters now. And then if I go to localhost/characters and then, I don't know, /2, right? It should, I don't know why that opened on another page, but whatever. Cool. So now we can see our show points working. So we have our index, our create, and our show. That's all we need for right now. So we're going to go back to here, and now we're ready to start looking at the front end. Let's make a really shitty front end app. Okay, we're going to start with that. So we want to go into our front end, and we also want to create some stuff in here. So let's start with just the usual. The usual, okay? We're going to start with an index.html. Cool. We're going to also add an app.js. And that's it for now. That's all we're going to start with. Cool. And then let's start with our index.html. I'm going to type in this, and for me, I type in HTML:5. For y'all, if you just type in an exclamation mark, it should fill out all this shit for you if you autocomplete it. Those autocompletes are called Emmett abbreviations. If you ever want to go down a fun little rabbit hole, just Google Emmett abbreviations. They're great. They're awesome. I'll show you what they are right now because there's no good reason for me not to. But also, don't stress too hard about learning them right now. Just learn them when you're actually making HTML shit all the time. Sweet. So let's just make our app called the characters app. So I'm going to go down here. This is an Emmett abbreviation, so I should be able to expand it like that. And I'm just going to call it Welcome to the Characters app. Great. We're going to make, in here, we're just going to make a section. And in this section, we're just going to call it our characters section. So characters section. Great. And cool. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll just get our characters appended to there for now. So let's save that. And also the last thing I want to do, this is not technically working in thin vertical slices right now because really, actually I'm just going to do the thin vertical slice way. We're going to check this. So I'm going to make a new terminal here and we're going to CD into the front end. So we're now in the front end and I'm just going to type in light server. And we just want to check to make sure, hey, are we actually hosting something here? So I'm going to type in here. The way that I do it, because I run my back end on localhost 9000, I can just run my front end on localhost 3000. For me, I like that mental separation because localhost 9000 is always my back end. So I haven't found a lot of other things that use 9000. So that's just nice for me. I like that. You certainly don't have to do that. If you just go to the defaults, then this front end endpoint will be localhost 3001, but your back end will be localhost 3000. I just like doing it this way. Mentally, it just makes sense for me. Sweet. So now we know that our characters app is working. The next thing that we want to do is just make sure we're connecting our JavaScript. So I'm going to go here and I am going to add a script tag, as one does. And we also probably want to defer that. We can run into some weird issues if we don't defer things. Does anybody have an idea of like something to look out for? Like, how do I know that I didn't put a defer in here? Does anybody have like, what kind of error usually shows up if you don't have a defer tag?
Maybe like an undefined error if you're trying to grab elements from your HTML page.
Beautifully said. Exactly. So typically the thing that will happen if you don't have a defer is on some line of code, you're typing in document.query selector and then maybe, I don't know, something from my HTML page, right? And when you have this line of code, what it's going to do is it's going to look through your HTML document for that thing. But the problem is, and the reason why we need this defer is because in our HTML, if we don't add this defer tag, this whole JavaScript document runs through before it even touches this. So that means this whole code basically got initiated and ran all the way through before it even got to this body. So what this defer tag tells us is basically, in theory, all that it's really doing is just moving it here to the bottom of your body. But I like using the defer tag. I just think it's cleaner. Awesome.
Would we still need the defer tag if we put the script at the bottom of the body?
Nope.
Okay.
I just always use the script tag. I like the defer tag. I just like the way it looks. I like mentally separating inside of the body is where like the stuff pertinent to the body exists. And then the JavaScript is really more of like a document that you're loading in. So for me, it makes more sense to do it like this. I don't know if that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, that's totally okay. It's a matter of preference. Sweet. So I'm just going to delete that for now. Well, we can go ahead and, whoops. Why did that not work? Change inside there? Whatever, it's not working. Cool. So I'm going to change to that, and we're just going to give this a name of character app. Whatever. That name doesn't really matter too much. Then we're going to go and we just want to check to make sure our, we really just want to check to make sure our JavaScript is working. It's probably the first thing we should do. So I'm going to go in here and we're just going to console.log. JavaScript is working or connected. Let's do that because it totally can be connected and not working. So if we want to be specific, that would be how. Cool. And now we're going to go to our browser. And if I press escape here, it pulls up the console. JavaScript is connected. Hooray. Cool. Go back to here. And we're just going to make a basic app. Basic, like, I think y'all should know how to kind of make a show page, an index page on the front where you're just kind of like showing a list of all the characters. So let's start with that. And if anybody wants me to slow down on this part, let me know. We're at what, 10:40, 11:43. I think we're okay on time. So I'm going to move kind of quick, but please slow me down. I don't like, if y'all are feeling like, I don't understand this shit, help me, please slow me down. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with, I need to first have access to that characters section. So I am going to say, I'm going to create a new variable that represents that node on the page. Since it's a node, I like to start these with a $sign. This doesn't actually mean anything. It's just JavaScript. Some people have this convention where if I'm referencing a node, then I will start it with a $sign. So I'm going to call this characters section. And we are going to set that equal to document.querySelector. And I am going to grab it by, I think I gave it a class name, but I should have given it an ID. So I'm going to grab it by ID. And it was called characters -section. Now, does anybody notice how my HTML, I'm putting a hyphen in between my words? In JavaScript, I'm making it camel case. These casings are super important. Just pay attention to them because they're going to save you a lot of effort in the long run. And it may not seem like it, but it will. I'm also going to change this to ID instead. I think that in general, if you have a specific part of your HTML, you want to reference that with an ID. If you have, like, in general, this thing is a card. That's what you would use a class for. Awesome. So we're going to go here. And now what do we want to do? We want to make a fetch call to the backend. So I am going to type in fetch. We're going to put in our backend URL. So in here, it's going to be http://localhost:9000. And the endpoint is going to be characters. And let's just see if we're getting any characters. So I am actually just going to go ahead and do, whoops. We do a .then. And the thing that we should be getting back is a list of characters. Well, the thing that we get back from this fetch first is the response. So we have to turn that response into JSON. And this is the syntax for doing that. And then after that, the thing that we get back is a list of characters. And let's just console.log those. Awesome. Give that a save. And let's see what we're doing. So I'm going to open up Google. And, oh, CORS policy. Have y'all dealt with this yet? Cool. So if you shook your head, yes. What's the first thing that I do to fix this?
Go to your gem file.
Gem file. Whoops. Cool.
And then there should be one for the cores, a cores gem that we have to bring back in.
Yep. So I do that. Cool. Is there anything else I need to do?
And then rerun the bundle install.
Yeah. So we could do that. So I'm going to go to my, there we go. And I'm going to close out this terminal and I'm going to type in Bundle install. Is there anything else I need to do while that's installing?
Another
Yeah.
one. Where was
Yeah,
that?
there's also a cores file, and this
Yeah.
cores file can be found in
Control
config, and then initializers, and then cores. And then in here, we basically just take, we take this and we uncomment it. And then there's one other thing I have to change in here. Anybody know?
Do you get rid of the example.com
Origins.
and put a star?
Yep. So in general, origins are the websites that are allowed to access this. So we want to say, oh, we'll let any website access this, because right now we're not teaching you the most secure way of doing things. We're teaching you the shitty way first. And then later on, you're going to be able to learn how to add origins. It's actually really easy to add origins. It would just be like, oh, okay, let me make this. You can actually just make it like an array. And you could make this, oh, I want this to be, oh, whoops. HTTP, oh, whoops, I don't know why I did all caps. HTTP://localhost:/:3000. And that would be an example of one. And I think you might have to put a slash at the end of it. I don't know. If we want, we can actually give that a shot. But I'm just gonna, for now, since we're on a time budget here, we're gonna make this a star. And we are going to run, where's my Rails? Yep, there we go. We're going to run this server again. And if hopefully if I'm right, we should have some, oh, we got some characters now. Great. Also, I want to check my staff notifications really quick because I heard a few hummuses and just want to make sure that nothing's super important. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. Awesome. Sweet. So we have characters. How am I going to append these characters to the page? How are we doing on time? We're doing good on time. Cool. How are we going to append these characters to the page?
Dot append.
Yeah, exactly. So first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to, bam, going to go to our app.js. And all that we're going to do for now is we're going to create, let's go ahead and, whoops, whatever, that'll work. Okay, so in general, I want to open this fat arrow up. So now that the fat arrow is opened up, I can start doing some stuff in here. And we're going to say characters dot for each character we want to do some stuff. Cool. By the way, don't stress about it now, but start to take note of, like, we're using these fat arrow things a lot. If you're curious about how those work, a rabbit hole to go down would be ES6. The sooner you learn that, the easier your life is, but also you're not expected to really understand those until like late mod 3. So don't stress about it now. Just make note of it, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to iterate through every character in here, and we are going to say, first we're going to create an element. So we'll say, I don't know, let new lists item, right? Or we'll call it a character. New character equals document dot create element, and we'll actually call it a, do we want to do a list item or a tag? We'll do an li, and then cool. And then all that we want to do for now is we want to say new character dot inner text is going to equal, let's do character dot name. That'll be good for now. Cool. And hopefully we need, oh, and we also need to take this and append. So to break this down into like the different parts, we are creating a character node. We are manipulating the character node. And then we are, whoops, a character node. So to append it, how am I gonna write this part where I append it? Someone give me what the chunk of code I'm gonna write.
You do the money sign character section dot append new character.
Yep, and also something I didn't refactor here is that this, I also, like I said before, this is a node, so I like to call this $sign new character, and I like doing it that way, and that way I know it's a node, and we want to append new character. Nice. Sweet. Let's see if that worked. So we're going to go to Google, and hey, look, we have some characters. All right. So now's where the query params part of this comes in. Do y'all have another class coming up? No, it's 12 coming up. I could stay a little late if y'all want during lunch, and we can get to the query params part. I don't want to take away from your lunch, so I'm gonna record this either way, upload it as soon as possible, so that way you have access to it. But we're basically almost there, so cool.
John, sorry, a small technical question.
Yep.
You put the $sign and then camel cased the character and not the new part. Is it because the $sign is just like a reference for the person programming, or is it like
in general, just this syntax? The first one does not get capitalized. The second one does. I guess for some reason, I can't tell you why, but for some reason the $sign doesn't count as a word. So it's like $sign, lowercase, uppercase, 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 uppercase would be the order. You picking up what I'm putting down, Roz? Or was that Roz?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Sweet. All right, cool. The next thing that we want to do is we want to actually have, this is kind of like the point of everything that we're doing, is we want all of these to actually go to a show page. So and this is the functionality that you're going to have to do on your code challenge that I'm trying to show y'all now. I want to make it to where if I click on Chuck, it takes me to Chuck's show page, right? So let's go ahead and do that now. The first thing that we have to do is I need some way of tracking what the show page is. You're going to kind of understand why in a second, but so we need to actually store some information here. So let's see. We are going to give this new character we're going to give it an ID of, right now we're just going to give it an ID of character.id. Okay, so when I do this, now when I look in Google, this character should have attached to it ID of 2, right? So now this character has an ID of 2, one character has an ID of 1, you get the idea, right? Cool. I'm gonna go back to iTerm, and why do we do that? Okay, well, we have to figure out where to send it. And this is where things are gonna get a little bit trippy. It's kind of three conversations at the same time, and it takes a little bit of thought process to kind of figure out what's going on, and that's totally okay. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this thing into a link. That's just so that way we can link it to a show page. So in order to do that, I actually want to make this. You see how I have inner text dot here and then inner ID? We can actually replace all of this. We're going to replace this with a template string. So I'm actually going to say new character, and then you can just go ahead and go straight to changing its HTML. Its inner HTML is what we call this property. And what's cool about doing it this way is now I can just write this like HTML code. So on the outside, I have li. So theoretically on this outside, I have something like this. But we don't actually need to write this part because it's implied that that's there on the outside. And whatever inner HTML we write is what goes inside of this LI. And so all we're doing is we're just writing a template string that writes basically HTML code, but all this HTML will live inside of this string. So inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, inside of this LI, we actually want to make an A tag. And this A tag is going to have an href. And we'll worry about that href after. But this A tag is going to have an href. And then we're going to end it. And then still on the inside of this, to escape these backticks, we use a $sign and curly braces. And inside of this, we still want to output the character's name. Cool. And then also, we can give this thing an ID equals, and we could do character.id. Do that, Google. And now we have some links. Where are they going to link to, though? Ooh, that's the question. Okay, so here's another trippy concept thrown at you right now. Bam, kind of confusing. See how this thing says localhost 3000 and then slash? The thing that goes after that slash can actually be a relative file. So for example, if I create another file here, which is what we're going to do now, I'm going to make another file and we're just going to call it show character.html. All I'm going to do is go in here, do the standard HTML5. So I'm going to go here and then I'm just going to, the width is not, whatever. I'm going to get rid of that. And then inside of here, all I'm going to do is make, I'm just going to say this is a show page, right? Cool. So all that's going to happen is I want to make sure that I go to this show page. So the way that I'm going to go to this show page is by providing that in my A tag. So in here, what I can do is I could do, I think I could just type in show character.html, and now it should go to that file. I might have to put a slash in the beginning. I don't remember. I don't normally program this way. We'll find out. So now if I click on one of these, it should go to a show page. Boop. It did go to the show page. Great. Sweet. Is anybody confused by what just happened? Or does everybody understand like kind of what was going on there?
Are all the links going to go to the show page?
All the links will, all these links right now will go to the show page. Why will they go to the show page? Well, let's look at what's going on here.
Because they're all inside the same H or A tag? Okay.
Yep, because I haven't told it to change at all when I'm iterating over these. But the next thing that we're gonna do, first of all, does everybody understand this concept? Because this concept is weird. And if you can internalize this, it's gonna make the next concept a lot easier. Fist of 5. All right, I'll take that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to put a slash here. And now we're going to put in this ID from the character. Cool. Give that a save. And now I'm going to go here again. And we're just going to go back here. And now, let's say Chuck has an ID of 1. When I click on this, what do we expect the URL to be? Grant. You're muted.
Sorry, 3000/character/1.
Yeah, so it's going to be slash, actually it's going to be 3000/show_character/1. Bam. And actually I messed something up. I did /ID, but actually what we want to do now is, this is where we're finally getting into query params. So query params isn't a slash. It's actually would look like this. ID equals that. So it's just a query param starts straight at the end of the path. And then you put a question mark, and then you put the query param key equals query param value. Okay, so now let's see what this is going to equal. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go back. Whoops, local host 3000. I go here, and now, oh, whoops, I think I didn't save. Sorry. Cool. Did I hit undo a bunch of times? I think I did. Cool. Sorry about that. I'm going to go back to localhost 3000. And if, oh, whoops. If I did this right, then now it should go to ID equals 1. Cool. Why does this matter? This is the trippy part here. Okay. And how are we doing on time? We're a little over. I'm going to try and keep it before 12:10. I'm really sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so why does this matter? Well, it turns out that I could grab this and get its value, and this is why it's important. So what I believe I could do is I could type in window.location.search, and what does that give me? When I do that, it gives me this string at the end of here. Let's just add some stuff to it just to see what goes on. So I could also do and name equals John, right? Let's just do that. It doesn't actually change this at all, but now when I type in window.location.search, bam, now I have that whole string as a search. The other thing that JavaScript gives us for free is access to this object called the what is it called? URL search params. And if we invoke this object with window.location.search, then we get access to some methods for free. So actually, let me do this. We're going to set this equal to, we're just going to call it search params equals this. Now what I can do is I have access to this method called get. And we can get something by its key. So in this case, let's say we want the key of name. I could type in get name. And now it gives me the value of John. Or let's say I do .get ID. Now I have the ID. So now, does anybody have an idea on how I'm going to create this show page? Anybody? All right, I'm going to go fast here just to get things done. But hopefully you understand like URL search params. I'm going to go fast because I think that this will be useful for you immediately after you take the code challenge. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like finish off the concept here. Hopefully I went slow enough to where you guys understand URL search params. So what I'm gonna do is now I can make another JavaScript file. And this JavaScript file is going to be referencing, we'll just call it show character.js, right? We're gonna give this a save. Here we'll also just make a section. So we're just gonna call it section, and this time we're going to call it a character section, not characters section, but character section because it's only one character. Cool. Give this a save. And now I'm going to go into my, I have to reload that. Oh, did I not make it? We have to make a JavaScript file. So we're going to call it show character.js. Cool. Now that we have this, even when I'm going fast, I still like to make sure I am working in thin vertical slices as much as possible for going fast. I'm going to go here and I just want to check. Oh, yep, we hit it. Cool. Now I'm giving this also an ID of John, and this is where the fun stuff comes in. So now what I would do is I could go to here and I have access to that window.location.search and all that jazz. So what I could say is const search params equals new, I think it's URLs, yeah. URL search params, and we're going to put in that window.location.search. Awesome. And then under here is where we're going to do, I need my ID. So now what I could do is I could say const ID equals search params dot get ID. Well, why does this matter? Because now what I should be able to do is, first of all, let me reload this page. Oh, whoops, let me go back to here. And we're just going to console.log ID and then ID. Whoops. So if I go here, now I'm saying my ID equals 1. So now the functionality that I have is, even though I'm loading a completely different page, I now have access to the ID of the character that I get. Bam, pretty useful. What I can do with that now is I can go in here and do the exact same thing I did before, but instead of fetching to the index endpoint, I'm going to fetch to the show endpoint. So I'm going to do characters and then slash, right? And let me refactor these. So hang on a second. Let's call this. Oh, dang it. There we go. So we're going to do slash ID. And this time, instead of getting back a list of characters, wow. This time, instead of getting back a list of characters, we're going to get back a single character, right? And what do we want to do with that character? It's exactly like before. So for now, I'm just going to make something ugly just to show y'all kind of the concept. I am going to say, let's see, I don't know, call it character. I'll do it decent. Character card. Whoops. $. Whoops. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Character card equal document dot create element. And we're just going to make it a div. And then inside of this, we're going to just do character card dot inner HTML equals, we're going to do these template strings, and inside of here, I don't know, we'll just do an H1 is going to be, whoopsies. And in here, let's just do character.name. Well, whoops, that should be a lowercase. And then we want to append that. So now we're going to say document dot query selector, and we want to call it, we called it the character section this time. And then we just want to append our character card. And hopefully I didn't mess this up. Let's find out. If I go here, unexpected token, period, on JavaScript 5. Looks like on 5. Dot then, oh, found it. Cannot read property append of null. Huh, that sounds like a familiar error to me. Here's a good check for that.
Did we need a return and we didn't return our JSON response?
No, so this is actually an implicit return That's a different conversation though. Just so I can finish it up quick. That is an implicit return. If you put curly braces here, it's a really good question. So I'm going to answer it right now. If you put curly braces here, you do need a return statement. Whoops. Without the curly braces, it's an implicit return, but it has to be single line. Cool. So what I messed up though, it looks like this document.querySelector ID character section, that's what's showing up as null. That's what the error is saying. So character section, looks like I did it right, but I have a defer here too. Maybe I didn't save this. Let's see. Let's see, maybe that works. If not, yep, it was literally just I didn't save. There you go. And this is the concept of how you make a show page. I'll open the floor for questions, but also y'all should take lunch because that was a lot. And if that felt like a lot, it is a lot. That fucked me up when I was taking the code challenge.
Yeah, I was curious for the code challenge. The create page is essentially going to be on the home page with the forms, right?
I can't tell you exactly how to format that for the.
Oh, that's all good. I was just going off.
That's not related to actually query params really at all.
But I was just curious though. Do you